Dobar dan svima vama koji se sad uključujete. Uživo se na kanalu Radio i Televizije Atlas. Pratite Pop Kvart, vašu dnevnu dozu kulture. Danas se bavimo svjetskom kulturnom scenom i prvo idemo do Kajmanskih ostrva i do tamošnje nacionalne galerije. Prosto da vas upoznamo sa njihovom tradicijom prikazivanja vizualnih umjetnosti.
The Cayman Islands is known for its clear ocean water, beautiful beaches, and stunning sunsets, not for its art. But the country's National Gallery on Grand Cayman is trying to change that by educating younger generations of artists and promoting some of its top talent.
The visual arts heritage is relatively young. We had a very, very long-standing craft industry going back hundreds of years. But of course, Cayman was very much a frontier seafaring society until the 1950s, really carving out a living from the sea, very bare, very hard-working culture, not much time for fine art, visual art pursuits. So in the 1950s, early 60s, when the banking industry really started taking off, we had a lot of people arriving on the shores of Cayman that maybe had fine art training, certainly an interest in the fine arts, and were able to bring skills and materials with them. And really that was the start of our visual arts industry.
The National Gallery was founded in 1996, the country's first building dedicated to art. It's been in its current location for the past year. The gallery has sections for the permanent collection, a sculpture garden, and 2 temporary exhibition spaces. The art ranges from traditional basket weaving to expat abstract artists to local island favorites.
The native sons, there's 8 native sons and daughters, and they really were created almost as a reaction to a lot of the work that was being done throughout the 70s and early 80s, which was predominantly watercolor, capturing the beauty of the scenery in Cayman, beaches and landscape. Our premier artist, I'd say, would be Bendel Hides. Bendel had a very large show when we opened this new exhibition. He's based in New York and has been for about 20 years and has international recognition.
Since fine art didn't develop in the Caymans until the 60s, art is not heavily taught in schools. Students get between a half hour to an hour of instruction a week. The National Gallery provides 25 educational programs a week for children and seniors in its education center. The island's past is on display with work by local graphic artist Shane Akar. He calls the show Things That Exist Only in My Fading Memory.
We just started to add buildings that were sort of significant to me. I was here when I was a boy. My father lived here. I used to come and visit him. And there are things that struck memories.
Originally born in Jamaica, Dreddy, as both he and his character is known, creates playful art that he says evokes happiness.
And when people see the Dreddy art, that's one of the senses they take away with them. We also found that people were calling me and going, "What's this building? What's that building?" Oh, I remember the days at the Holiday Inn, which doesn't exist anymore. Is that Dr. Roy's house? Is that Miss Lassie's?
One of the temporary exhibitions here at the National Gallery is called Prayer Canvases by Miss Lassie. She's an island artist who's considered controversial by some because she was self-taught at the age of 62.
Lassie is known as a visionary or outsider artist, and as you can see from the work around me, it could be considered quite naive. Certainly she's had no formal training, as you can see by the work, but she literally woke up after having a vision and never stopped painting. Miss
Lassie, whose real name is Gladwin Bush, died in 2003 at 89. She didn't just paint on canvas, she painted her house inside and out. And it's now a World Heritage Site, the first in the country.
You've got the images that are very well recognized in the Cayman Islands, images of sort of Job, various crucifixion images. It is a very heavily Christian island, and Miss Lassie came from that cultural background.
A nakon Kajmanskih ostrva otići ćemo malo do Šangaja da vidimo tamošnju priču vizualnih umjetnosti.
I knew about the fantastic Art Deco buildings that are here in Shanghai. Shanghai being considered one of the most progressive architectural cities since the 1930s. And I set out looking for properties here to put the gallery in. I came here in 2007 and we opened in the summer of 2008. It was a single occupancy residency for some city official after the building was built in 1936. The military occupied the building through the 1970s after the European family was here. And that's why we have the slogan over the door which says, "Let the spirit of Mao Zedong live for 10,000 years." Another reason why I wanted to be in a residential setting here is to show people in China, how do you live with contemporary art?
James Keohane Gallery Shanghai is really sort of founded on the idea of exchange. The exchange of ideas and information between New York and Shanghai. This exhibition is called Downtown, A View of the Lower East Side. A few years ago, we had one of our former colleagues here at JCG Shanghai curated an exhibition of young Chinese artists at our gallery in New York. 6 months ago, there was this kind of idea of bringing some young artists to Shanghai. So we were thinking about what is kind of interesting about New York right now, and that really is this sort of community of artists, community of galleries that is really kind of really vital and exciting on the Lower East Side. So this is an installation called Dumb and Easy by Joshua Abelo. He has this really interesting sort of self-critical look at the sort of heroic male painter. In a way, he's sort of making fun of that character. He's making fun of himself. These are actually sort of, he calls them self-portraits, the sort of face-like figures. So this piece is called Dinner Theater, and it's by Jessica Jackson Hutchins. She's very interested in making sort of signs of language. So for example, quotation marks, semicolons, commas. She's interested in sort of making that more spatial. The idea was to kind of bring a snapshot of what is happening in New York, in particular the Lower East Side, to our Shanghai audience. Also, in terms of the sort of concept of downtown and what downtown means, we definitely wanted to find a way to give a little bit of a history of what that means, as you know, downtown as an attitude and downtown as a location.
Evo, poštovani gledalci, to je bilo sve što se tiče današnjeg Pop Kvarta. Meni je ostalo da vas podsjetim da je takmičenje novih autora i dalje aktuelno, te da do petka treba da šaljete svoje radove na temu novi autori @rtvatlas.tv. Vaši radovi treba da budu inspirisani ljubavlju ove sedmice. Dakle, tema je ljubav, šaljite vaše priče ili pjesme gdje je ljubav dominantan motiv. To učinite do petka, kako rekoh, na adresu novi autori @rtvatlas.tv. Mi se vidimo ponovo s jutrom. Do tada budite dobri, budite dobro. Prijatno!